Belal Muhammad vs. Shavkat Rakhmonov being announced as the main event for UFC 310, the last pay-per-view of the year, has fans buzzing, and rightfully so. I'm not gonna lie, this is probably the second most exciting main event we got left in 2024. My first one is obviously Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria, a matchup of pure striking firepower. But when it comes to this intrigue of styles, Belal versus Shavkat brings the heat. Sure, we've got John Jones versus Stipe Miocic coming up, but let's be real for a second. That fight feels more like a farewell parade for Jones than anything else. And when it comes to Belal versus Shavkat, this is where things get spicy. You've got Belal Muhammad, who built up a resume that's basically a who's of the welterweight elites. Over the last few years, he's been on fire. He's taken on everyone, from Leon Edwards to Gilbert Burns to Sean Brady to Wonderboy Thompson and Vicente Luque. Belal's one of those fighters who doesn't always get the love that he deserves because of his style. It isn't flashy, he's not out there throwing flying knees or submitting people with ninja chokes. At the end of the day, he's just relentless and it's efficient. Belal drags people into deep waters, outpaces them, and wins on the scorecards. And while that might not be the most highlight reel friendly strategy, it's been working. He's undefeated in his last 10 fights, and every time you think he's about to hit a wall, he just figures it out a way to grind out another win. And what makes Belal so fascinating is that his approach doesn't always fit the typical mold of a fan favorite fighter, but he's been increasingly impossible to deny. He's a tactical genius in there. He knows how to shut down his opponent's best weapons and turn the fight into a war of attrition. And while that doesn't always end with the crowd screaming for a finish, it ends with his hand raised, and that's what matters. And let's not forget, he did finish Sean Brady, a guy who was previously undefeated and highly touted. So it's not like Belal can't finish a fight when the opportunity presents itself. But let's be honest, his bread and butter is the decision. Belal likes to slowly squeeze the life out of his opponents, like a boa constructor that just keeps getting tighter. Now, the interesting thing about Belal Muhammad is how much he evolved, especially in the striking department. He's no longer just a guy who can out-wrestle you. He can now stand toe-to-toe with dangerous strikers like Leon Edwards, for an example, and hold his own. And his ability to mix it up keeps his opponents guessing, and that's the unpredictability is what is making him such a tough puzzle to crack. Now, on the other side though, we've got Shavkat Rakhmonov, who's been the polar opposite of Belal in terms of fight style. Where Belal is a decision master, Shavkat is a finishing machine. This guy doesn't just win fights, he ends them and fast. Out of his 18 career wins, he finished every single one of them with a perfect split between knockouts and submission. The man has never heard the word decision. 6 UFC fights and all of them have ended in a finish. It's like Shavkat sees a fight going to the 3rd round and think, nope, that's too long, let's wrap this up. His approach is violent, precise, and relentless. He doesn't play around, whether it's on the feet or on the ground. He's basically hunting for a way to take you out. He's basically the Terminator of the welterweight division, just methodically, breaking down everyone who stands in his way. Shavkat's biggest win so far has been over solid contenders like Neil Magny, Jeff Neal, and Wonderboy Thompson. But here's the catch. We haven't seen him truly tested by someone at Belal's level. Sure, he plowed through guys, but he hasn't faced any real top tier grinders like Belal, and that's what makes this fight so fascinating. What's interesting is that we're looking at a classic matchup between a grinder and a finisher, but it's also a battle of momentum. Belal Muhammad is the guy who can prove that he can handle anyone that's thrown at him, even if people have doubted him along the way. He just doesn't care if you're a power striker, a jiu-jitsu wizard, or a wrestling phenom. He will find a way to break you down and turn it into his fight. On the flip side, Shavkat Rakhmonov is a fighter with unstoppable momentum. We haven't seen him push to his limit yet, but there's an aura around that feels different from other contenders. He carries this vibe of a guy who doesn't just win, but dominates in majority of his fights. But the thing is that Belal Muhammad is not the kind of fighter that anyone can just run through. Shavkat Rakhmonov might be undefeated and has a highlight reel that looks like it was made for an action movie, but people need to stop acting like Belal is just another name on the hit list. The guy doesn't even gas out. he has cardio for days and can wrestle like nobody's business. The thing about Belal is you don't have to be the perfect fighter, but you better have all the tools to deal with his pace and his game plan. This man can control a fight, and if you're not careful, you'll spend more time fighting off his grappling than landing any clean shots. So anyways, let's break it down. Belal fought guys like Burns and Brady, two dangerous fighters, and didn't even shoot for a takedown. He stood with them and won. Then you look at his win over Wonderboy and Leon Edwards, where he uses wrestling to neutralize their striking. We're talking about the elite guys in their own right, but Belal's ability to mix it up and adapt to his opponent's style is top tier. He's got an amazing gas tank, probably second to only someone like Merab Dvalishvili. And that's a huge deal because Shavkat, while he's a finisher, he hasn't faced someone who can push him into deep waters like Belal. And that's the key question here. What happens when Shavkat is forced into those championship rounds? Can he maintain that same violent, relentless pace, or does Belal drag him into the grind that he's just not prepared for? This is the kind of fight where we can learn a lot about Shavkat's ability to handle adversity. We know he can dish it out, but what happens when he's the one that's being pressured? Now, Shavkat is no joke on the ground either. He's dangerous off his back, has solid submissions, and if we're going to be honest, his ground and pound can make you feel like you've been hit by a truck. If Belal takes him down, it won't be a walk in the park either. Shavkat's got a deep bag of tricks that he can make anyone's night miserable. But here's the thing, Belal has been reversed on the ground before, like in the fight with Leon Edwards, and while Shavkat might be the more dangerous off his back than Leon, Belal doesn't panic in those moments. He has a knack for staying calm under pressure and working his way out of tricky positions. Another thing to consider is that it's hard to neglect Belal's pressure in general. Most importantly, it's hard to get him off you once he's got you. But then again, Shavkat isn't going to be in the outside like a Leon Edwards or a Sean Brady. If you try to walk Shavkat down, he's going to happily step into the pocket and make it a throwdown. Shavkat also really has good kicks at range, and if he can keep Belal at a distance, he might be able to control the fight better than people expect. So if you were to play the Leon and Belal fight, but swap Leon for Shavkat, sure, Shavkat might find some success if he gets into those dominant positions. But Belal isn't the type to give in. He's known how to grind, how to make the fight ugly if he needs to. And while Shavkat may be more dangerous on the feet, Belal's relentless pace, cardio, and wrestling could be the key to hanging with Shavkat in those later rounds. Shavkat might be used to finishing guys early, but if Belal can drag him into the 4th round and 5th round, it could be a completely different fight. Belal just needs to wrestle, mix it up on top, because let's be real, Shavkat's head movement isn't the greatest. Belal could chain his takedowns with his punches, and that might be the key. The weird thing is, we don't know how good Shavkat's grappling defense really is. I like to think it's solid, but we haven't seen it tested enough. If Shavkat can stuff the grappling exchanges, then it's his fight all day. But if Belal can drag him into deep waters, it can swing in his favor. That's what makes this matchup so intriguing. It's kind of like a coin flip. But to be honest, I think I'm going to go with Shavkat. I think somehow he gets it done. But man, I wouldn't put money on it in general. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like always, guys, I'll see you guys on my next one.